Welcome back to the Saints and Alumni Show right here on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. I'm your host this week, Brandon Murphy, class of 2017 from the Office of Alumni Engagement. And this week I'm joined by Siena head swim and dive coach and aquatics coordinator Maggie Davenport, class of 2019. A reminder to everyone listening to us that there are a few ways to listen to the Saints and Alumni Show, a bi-weekly podcast highlighting members of the Siena community. You can listen here on 88.3 The Saint, iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, and subscribe to the Siena Alumni YouTube channel to check out the complete selection of shows. Coach Maggie, we're so excited to have you here in the office today, back on campus. Welcome home. Your first time on the show, and I believe your first time as a head coach that we'll get into in a little bit. But welcome. How are things been this summer?
Thank you. Yeah, things have been great. It's been really good to be back. At the time we're recording this, we had our first practice this morning, so things are rolling and feeling good.
I always love this time of year because you got the cross-country team that are running, 15 miles at 7 a.m. before anybody gets in the office.
Yeah.
You got the swimming team, doing the 250 meters butterfly before the sun comes up. A lot of energy here on campus in the first month, and we're really excited. Now we're approaching the upcoming season. But before we dive into all of that, and before we even dive into your time at Siena College, we're going to kind of take another step back and talk about the love for swimming. For you, Maggie, how did that all begin, and where did that interest come from, and the passion that you have for swimming?
Yeah, for sure. I got into the world of swimming and aquatics at a pretty young age. My mom always tells the story. I learned to walk pretty early. I was like 10 or 11 months, and I was wanting to go off the diving board at like the age of 1 at the Y. My mom was like, all right, we got to put her in swim lessons so she doesn't, fall in the pool. So started kind of swimming then, and I remember I was 6 or 7, and I went to watch one of my cousins. A couple of my cousins were swimming like summer swim, and I went and watched and was like, I want to do this, and kind of took off from there and started swimming then, and we were a pretty big sports family, so that was just one of the things we did. But yeah, started kind of at a young age and fell in love with it.
So I have a lot of passions. I have a lot of skills. Nothing that would take me to the next level. Those that are listening and know me, I'm 5'7". I love basketball. Couldn't advance to that next level. But I had a lot of fun playing it and a lot of friends and just kind of casually playing. But when you look at Siena College, you look at Division I athletics, there comes a point in time where you really got to take a next step in considering taking that to the next level. For you, Maggie, how did that happen? When you look at the recruiting process, when you look at maybe joining clubs or communities outside of a school system, how did that conversation of, I want to be a D1 athlete come about for you?
Yeah, for sure. I actually had a pretty unconventional journey into Division I swimming. We were a big soccer family growing up, and I from the age of 8 or 9 wanted, soccer was my thing. I wanted to play soccer in college. That's what I thought I was gonna do. Ended up having a couple knee injuries, tore my ACL, and kind of decided I had to take a step back from that, and knew I wanted to play a sport. That was always something I wanted to do in college. Playing a sport and being part of that team was a huge part of me growing up and who I was. So wasn't ready to give up kind of athletics in general. And swimming was my second love, but it was right there, right underneath soccer, and kind of was like, why not go for swimming, and kind of realized that I had the times to be able to compete at the Division I level and that kind of stuff. Swimming's a little different than some of the other sports. It's a little more black and white, sending in times, and you're either fast enough or you're not. So was able to kind of get in there actually my senior year, and ended up walking on my freshman year, and best decision I made. So very happy that I did it, but kind of a not so traditional route that I took to get there.
And you talk about, loving swimming, but you also got to love the place that you're competing at.
Yeah.
And a little fun fact that I dug up doing the pre-interview was that your family owns a 600-acre vegetable farm.
We do.
And Siena was founded on a beets farm. So I think it was fate for you to come to Siena. But in all seriousness, when you were looking at the options and you were talking to the different programs, what was that special factor that made you decide Siena College?
Yeah, definitely. I took a couple recruit trips, different places, and talked to a couple coaches, and I've talked about it a bit, but it's just the community here at Siena. I remember I came on this trip, and I came in the spring, and they were in off season, and I remember we were sitting in, I think, Hennepin or Hines, and they were like, sorry, it's kind of boring. Like normally we take naps now because it's we're in the off season. But I just had such a fun time, and I was like, this is such a good group of people. And I remember getting in the car after my trip, and on the way home, I looked at my dad and was like, I need to call the coach and tell him that I'm going there. Like that was it. So just being immersed on campus, I think I talk about it a bit in my recruiting process with recruits, and like I really believe there's a place for everybody. And when I'm recruiting, I'm telling them, I'm as much recruiting you as you're recruiting me, and trying to figure out the school. And as cheesy as it sounds, I think sometimes stepping onto a campus, it just feels like home. And people always tell you, you'll know it's right when you're there, and you're like 18, you're like, that's so stupid.
What do you know?
Yeah, exactly. But definitely that was the feeling. And I just knew when I got here that the people were great and everyone was super welcoming, and this is where I wanted to spend the next 4 years.
And we're just about halfway through in the first segment of today's show, and now we get to Siena College as a freshman. And a lot of the guests that we have, we talk about the inside the classroom experiences, we talk about the outside of the classroom experiences, and today we get to talk about that second level of outside with athletics. But what our listeners probably don't have a great grasp on is the balance of a student athlete at the Division I level with a college like Siena, whose classes are quite difficult and have a high academic standard. For you to begin with, Maggie, can you take us through balancing your academics, what you studied at Siena, with being a student one athlete?
Yeah. I was a biology major. I loved bio, had, thought maybe health, something in the health sciences, med school, things like that. And, fast forward, here I am coaching, but I loved the bio department here. But yeah, it was definitely a transition. I think, coming in freshman year, it's a different ball game. I was actually homeschooled for a bit growing up, so that kind of teach yourself mentality, I had a little bit of that before, which I think was helpful. But yeah, it was a transition. I think the fall, kind of figuring out how to balance classes and work and meeting new people and joining clubs and all that kind of stuff. It took a little bit to figure that out, but the support system here is great, especially in athletics. The tutoring help and all of that kind of stuff, they kind of help you get your feet under and help you in those ways. So definitely was a transition, but overall it was good. And the teammates that I had were really great about helping out and studying with us and different things like that.
And my help was with the roommates and waking them up for an 8 a.m. class. And here are these athletes waking up at 6 a.m. doing a full workout. So that is a lot of balance. And you even kind of took it to the next level with the outside classroom experiences and the service at Siena. It was deeply rooted in you growing up, serving the community. And I think you basically wanted that to be a big part of your Siena experience, along with swimming. Can you let us know a little bit about the type of service that you did at Siena, and maybe a highlight of a destination or two where you went with serving at Siena College?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely wanted to get involved with stuff. I was involved with like student ministry board and different things like that. Helping out over there with Father Larry. We ran some praise and worship sessions and different things like that. Made a lot of good friends there. Also was involved a bit with the Make-A-Wish Club. My younger brother had cancer growing when I was younger. He's good now, but that was always an organization that was pretty near and dear to our hearts. So wanted to kind of get involved with that. And then, the team itself got involved with different service opportunities throughout campus and in the community, and just enjoyed immersing in the community and being able to do some stuff like that. Yeah.
And we just watched the Olympics over the summer in Paris, and we watched a lot of swimming in prime time, which is always great to see.
Yeah.
And the swimming over in the Olympics, to me at least, it feels pretty compact. You got the prelims, you got the heats, and you got the finals all happening so quickly in my mind. When we look at the college landscape, for those that may not know, kind of how is a swimming meet laid out in the different competitions that you have on the Division I level?
Yeah. Swimming's a little different than other stuff. There's a lot of talks right now in the swimming world about trying to make swimming a little bit more exciting. So we're trying to get that up and rolling, do some more fun stuff. But in general, right now, college. So for dual meets, you just swim once for the race. It's no like prelims, finals. Okay. So it's a one and done kind of deal. The order of events and what relays you swim and that kind of stuff is determined by coaches beforehand. But so they have a couple different versions and different things you can plug in through that. And then once we get to the bigger meets, we'll have a mid-season meet and our champs meet, and that's a prelims and finals meet. So you'll swim prelims in the morning, and then they take the top 16, and those compete for the points and those final places at night. So that's a little bit more of what you're used to seeing, like prelims, finals, multiple races in the Olympics. But on the day-to-day, it's usually like a 2.5 hour meet. Everyone one and done, some relays, different things like that.
And when we talk about the favorite parts of being a student athlete, we also want to talk about a little bit on the favorite races to compete in. The camaraderie and the team chemistry and the travel and those memories come with it. But then there was the success, and looking through some of the statistics, you had some great success at Siena College, and it's great to have that type of player and alumni come back and coach the program. And we'll talk about that vision in the second segment. But for you, when you look back on it, or you're like watching the team practice and you're like, man, I wish I was back in the pool competing in that race, in that heat. What were some of your highlights to swim in and some of the favorite memories that you had competing at Siena College?
Yeah. I was a sprinter through and through. It was a push to get me to swim the 200, but usually 50, 100. That was kind of my jam. I had a bunch of my sprint buddies there. So do love, I've been trying to get back in the pool they have some master swim meets and stuff you can swim. So trying to get back into it, but definitely loved like the 50 and 100 free, but loved relays. Getting that, like you talked about, that team aspect, being on the relays. The 4x100 free relay is an epic one. They always end meets with that, so that's a blast to be on. I have one. I always remember this one. It's my freshman year. It was me. And then it was Maggie Fletcher, Fran Tanucci, and Emily Caridio. And it was against like LAU Brooklyn or something, but super close to me. It came down to the last relay. And I remember I was anchoring and I was with all these people. I was a freshman going up last, and I was like, I just can't lose, like whatever. And we ended up putting together a really sick relay. We won the relay, and then we won the meet by 1 point. So that is always sticks out in my mind. That was one of the most fun. But yeah, loved the relays. Would love to be able to do a Siena relay once again one day. But for sure.
That's what I love about some of the alumni events, and we'll talk about the alumni social coming up in the next segment. The alumni sometimes come back and compete. The women's and men's rugby players, the men's and women's lacrosse players. I'm at 30 years old. I cannot be competing at a level like this. So it's impressive that the alumni still want to do that. And the last question that I have in the beginning of the show today is, we look back, we talk about life after Siena, and we always look back about those favorite memories that we have as a student, and for you, a student athlete. If somebody were to ask you to talk to the current team that you lead right now, highlights of the favorite memories that you have as a Siena student overall, and something that you just don't want to miss out on. Kind of, what do you look back on and cherish the most?
Yeah, in terms of just like being a student and the community here, I think there's so many great memories. And I was walking around campus the other day with one of my former teammates, Liz. She came up and we were walking around, and we got up to the townhouses, and a lot of people talk about the townhouses, but just like that feeling. And I was explaining to someone just how close the senior class gets, and you're out grilling on Friday nights, and thinking a lot about with my class, just being able to walk kitty corner. I was Townhouse 21, they were Townhouse 15. You could walk right across and go to Friday night dinners with them. Our friends on the basketball team would make dinner and different things like that. So I think just having those and really enjoying the time to have dinner with people and sit outside and get to know the class. I think you have the opportunity, because it's a smaller campus and everyone lives on campus, to really get to know everyone. And so taking the opportunities to do that. But yeah, living up in the townhouse as senior year was definitely a good memory.
My memory of the townhouses was I lived in 8-man in McCluskey. The next year, it got renovated to a brand new 6-man. My senior year, I lived in 8-man unrenovated. After I graduated, brand new renovated 6-man. But when we come back in the second segment of today's show, we're not going to talk all about the townhouses, even though we could do a third segment on that. We'll come back. We'll talk about life after Siena, getting into coaching for Maggie, and now her vision for the program. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. Welcome back to the Saints and Alumni Show, right here on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. I'm your host this week, Brandon Murphy, class of 2017, from the Office of Alumni Engagement. And this week I am joined by Siena head swim and dive coach and aquatics coordinator Maggie Davenport, class of 2019. So we just wrapped up talking about all things Siena as a student athlete, and a lot of the favorite memories that you have on campus. And it's always sad. You always get to the point of having to graduate from Siena. We are lucky we get to come back and work at this great place and attend Chicken Nugget Friday and have all these great memories and experiences still. But people move on after Siena, and you did do that in 2019 and beginning to take that next step. As we begin to paint the last 5-year timeline for our listeners, Can you talk a little bit about what happened right after Siena and those first steps that you had?
Yeah. Right after graduating from Siena, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. So I did a year of service, really wanted to give back to the community. So I served a year with the Franciscan Volunteer Ministry. There was actually 4 of us from Siena that year. So it was a pretty good group. I remember one of my friends, Emma, came up to me in like April and was like, I'm doing FEM, like you should look into it. And I looked into it. I was like, oh, it sounds so awesome. So I went down to Durham, North Carolina for a year, was down there just doing a bunch of ministry work and serving the community. I actually coached middle school basketball for a season. I had no idea what I was doing, but it taught me a lot about coaching in general. So that was fun. But yeah, and then came back up here once when COVID hit. So yeah.
We'll have to get into the coaching of soccer too, and bring back that childhood passion. Maybe club soccer down the line. Who knows? And after you make your way back up here, you talked about in the first segment looking into biology, looking into some type of health studies, sciences. So you do make a decision to attend grad school and pursue that next step and get your master's degree. Where did you go to study, and what did you get your master's degree in, Maggie?
Yeah, I did the online program through Southeastern University down in Florida, and I got my master's in kinesiology from there.
And what was that process like for you? Can you give us a little bit of insight? Was it during the pandemic, or was it remote? Was it in person? Did you want to take that degree and be a medical trainer on campus? Kind of, what was your thought process with it all?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I came back home for COVID, and my old club coach, Joe Leary, reached out to me and was kind of like, "Hey, you want to come coach with me while you're living at home?" And I had coached summer teams and different stuff over the summer when I came back from college, and but for some reason I never really had coaching as a full-time career. Thought about it, but I remember I was on deck coaching like during COVID and the craziness of the world, and I kind of just realized that being on the pool deck was my happy place, and I fell in love with the sport of swimming and refound my passion for it, and was just kind of like, this is what I want to do. And so kind of started looking into different programs. I liked Southeastern's a lot. I really like the human body and how it works, and I think in swimming, it's obviously very important, and it's kind of a weird sport and how you're moving your body through the water. So being able to learn more about that was really great. And they also had the way the classes were set up. You had some opportunities to take some business administration, athletic administration, different things like that. So I just thought it would set me up really well to run a team one day eventually as a head coach. It was all remote, online, so I was able to start and be coaching and living at home and stuff while I did those classes online. So worked out really well for me at that time. Yeah.
And I'm really excited about the transition into the later half of today's show, and then we're going to dive into the coaching timeline, and then the Siena College program. And as you begin coaching, really the record setting begins as well. You begin to develop a lot of players with a lot of records that they have personally, and kind of get your feet literally wet into the coaching industry. What was your first head coaching job, and maybe some of the lessons you took as a first-year coach at that level that maybe you take with nowadays?
Yeah, for sure. My first coaching job, I was the assistant coach at SUNY New Paltz. I met the then coach, Matt Disler, there at the YMCA I was working, and he walked in, and I kind of knew who he was, and we started just chatting, and then he kind of was like, "Hey, I'm looking for an assistant. What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh yes, this is my in." Like I was trying to find somewhere. So always talk to people. I always tell people, I'm like, ask questions, introduce yourself. You never know where it'll lead. But so met him. He's one of my best friends now. Super lucky to have worked under him. He just really set the groundwork for me in terms of being like a relationship-based coach. And he's super high energy on deck, and I'm super high energy on deck. And it kind of allowed me to blossom into building that confidence and different things like that, and really prioritize getting to know the athletes and working with them individually and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of laid the groundwork, and felt really lucky to be able to work with him. So that was awesome.
So I've got to ask a quick follow-up, because I've heard this term a few times, on deck. I may have missed it. Is on deck a swimming term for our listeners? What does that mean? Is that like a head coaching? Like, what is that?
like, yeah, if you're like, if we're on deck, it just means we're practicing. Like,
Okay.
so the tile around the pool is the deck. So you'd be like,
Got it.
we're on deck. Like, I met him on deck. Yeah. So being on deck is you're not in the stands. You're like actually down by the pool.
I'm gonna start using this
There
term
you
all the
go.
time now. So
Yeah.
watching the Olympics in 2028, I'm gonna use that term
Yeah.
all the time. So you eventually, you leave SUNY New Paltz for a great position to that next level, and returning locally at Union. A fun fact is the assistant basketball coach and men's team, Ben Lee, also was at Union for a little bit as well as a graduate. So we have a nice little 518 connection
Yeah.
with some of the athletics program. And for our listeners who may not know some of the past statistics for Coach Maggie, Coach Maggie Davenport helped guide the men's team to 3 new school records and a 10 top 10 program titles. And while the women's squared tallied 5 top 10 program marks as well. Both teams each won their first 4 meets of the season, with the men's program accomplishing the feat for the first time since 1966, and the women's for the first time in 17 years. In 2022-2023, the men's team ranked second nationally amongst all Division III programs, the highest percentage of lifetime wins as well. So a pretty great record at Union that you're going to take here to Siena College as well. As you look back on your time at Union, what do you remember most about, continuing to grow as a coach, developing these kind of athletes and really taking your skills to the next level?
Yeah, for sure. I've talked about it a bit. Obviously, working with Coach Molly was great. Also a alumni of Siena, Hall of Famer, water polo and swimming. So really lucky to have been able to work with Molly, and they kind of gave me a lot of opportunities to grow and take write practices and run practices and lead stuff and kind of figure out what I liked and didn't. So that was great just for me building my confidence as a coach, being able to run practices and different things, try new things out. And then on top of that, just, again, being a relationship-based coach and getting to know the athletes, getting to know what motivates them, getting to know what works for them. I think sometimes swimming can be a bit monotonous and you're just kind of grinding yards. And I really like to stop and work on technique and work on different things and do film review. And, it's crazy how many swimmers have never watched themselves swim. Like so many sports do film and different things. And it's like, well, why are we not doing that in swimming? How are you going to kind of figure different things out if you're not watching it? So we did a lot of that at Union, a lot of film review, a lot of watching videos and pulling people out and talking to them during stuff. And so those were things that kind of just solidified, started kind of at New Paltz and then solidified at Union, and now are really like central to who I am as a coach. And so those are kind of a lot of things that I'll bring, and just, having fun on deck and playing music. And, the girls were laughing this morning. I was running around, like I was probably sweating more than they were, just like making laps around the pool deck, cheering people on. And I like to really be involved in practice when we're going. So, yeah.
And you look at the statistics, and that could make anybody a head coach. And then you add in the intangible skills that you have as a leader. It really makes Siena a perfect fit, and being an alumni here. And you mentioned it briefly in your last answer about some of the different types of practice energy and kind of just atmosphere that you want to bring to the program. So I'm going to kind of loop these next 2 questions together instead, and give our listeners a chance to think, why was Siena now the right fit for you to lead your first program as a head coach? And can you give us some insight into the players and the staff that you have within the program?
Yeah, definitely. I knew when I left Siena, when I graduated, it was always kind of in the back of my mind, like, how do I get back here? Like, it's funny. Like, I didn't realize how many people come back, but so many people come back. Someone joked that like it's kind of a cult, and it kind of is, but that's okay.
Yes.
It's great. We love it. But yeah, I always knew I wanted to come back. There's just something really special about this place. And, my goal had always been to be a head coach. I knew that I wanted to do that. And taking over the program at Siena had always been in the back of my mind as what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to come back here and give back to this place that had provided me with so much. And I have a little personal stake in wanting the team to do well, just being an alumni. So, I kind of was looking for stuff. It wasn't, it just happened that the job opened up, and it just felt like the right time. And I knew I had to take it. I had to come back here. So super excited about that. In terms of like staff, still finalizing some stuff. We have a great diving coach who's coming back this year. So very excited for him to continue to work with our divers and continue to grow the kind of that side of the program. Continuing to, solidifying some stuff with assistants. And then just in terms of the team, like that culture piece for me is huge. We want to bring in fast swimmers, but I want to bring in people that have that Siena spark, that want to be involved in the community, that care about their teammates a lot, that want to work hard. I've been doing individual meetings with the girls, and everyone's just really excited to get after it and push each other and work hard, but have a really good time while doing it. They're smart in the classroom and kind of that well-rounded student athlete. So continuing to build on that.
And we've got just about 3 minutes left in today's show, and we've got just a couple of questions left that we want to highlight. And the first one being the upcoming season. Can you give our listeners some insight into some home meets that may be scheduled, some away meets that are on that calendar? Maybe if there's anything in Boston, the city, anywhere around the country that our alumni might be able to attend as well, and a little bit of a league outlook. How's the swimming conference looking for this year?
Yeah, for sure. We're not home until November, but we got some home meets in November and January, and then we're in Rhode Island, New Jersey. We'll be on Long Island for our midseason meet. A max is in Ohio, so that's a bit of a hike for some people. We'll have a meet at St. Peter's, which is down more towards the city. So we cover a pretty good range of places. Definitely alumni engagement and getting the alumni back is something that is really important to me and that I really want to do. So alumni that are listening, stop by practice, stop by a meet, let me know. Would love to have you back. Would love to have you see what the current team is about. They're pretty awesome. And then, in terms of the league, I'm just super excited to see what Siena can do. I think we've done historically well for Siena, and the program has continued to get better and new top 10 times, and such a tongue twister. Top 10 times. I messed up too. Top 10 times and records and stuff like that. But you've seen different teams in the league. Fairfield and Niagara kind of go from the middle of the pack where we're at to top 3, and that's kind of where we're looking to go eventually. So just continuing to swim fast, and we'll take it one day at a time and see where we end up.
And Siena Saints just released your first interview, I believe, on Instagram. So we're very excited to be the second, I believe, official interview.
Yeah.
For those that may have not seen that video yet on social media, what would be one of your final messages to the fans listening, to the alumni players listening? And for those alumni players listening, we are in the works of an alumni social in November. You'll hear from Coach Maggie. You'll hear from the alumni office for a home meet and a social to kind of reconnect and network with the team. But for those listening, what was kind of your last message to the fans?
Yeah, for sure. First, just building that community. I think the current team is really, really special. It's a phenomenal group of girls. I'm so grateful and excited that this is my team for the year and our team. And they're really excited, and they have some big goals that they want to accomplish. And I'm really excited for that. So just follow along, support us. I think getting the community involved, getting the alumni involved really, really, really is important to me, and want to make those connections and get them here. So like I said, swing by, stop by, any support you can give to us and meet the girls. Very excited for the year and for connecting with everyone out there.
Well, Maggie, thanks so much for joining the show today. We appreciate it. Best of luck to you and the program in the coming season and years. Thank you for everybody listening. We'll see you next time right here on WVCR 88.3 The Saint.